He's accused of murdering 7 women, yet people are bidding thousands for his high school yearbook. A rusted-out Jeep, once rotting in a Long Island driveway, is now a collector's trophy. eBay flooded with twisted listings, bids soaring. But this isn't just true crime curiosity. This is something darker. Why are people obsessed with owning the belongings of a suspected serial killer? And what does it say about us? This is the chilling story of murder, memorabilia, and the madness of the Gilgo Beach craze. It started with a listing, not a news article, not a police update, but an eBay auction. In June 2025, an old 1972 Army Jeep appeared online, rusted, weather-beaten. But what made it different wasn't its condition. It was its owner. Rex Heuermann, the suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer, was the man who had driven it, parked it, owned it for decades. The asking price? A modest $500 starting bid. But within hours, it skyrocketed past $4,000. Soon, more listings followed. A high school yearbook from Heuermann's senior year, $995. Crime scene newspapers, $150. Even Gilgo Beach killer bumper stickers popped up for sale. People weren't just buying things. They were buying fragments of fear, pieces of horror, souvenirs of death. The backlash was instant and fierce. Families of the victims were horrified. Media outlets condemned the sellers as ghouls. But collectors defended their actions. One called it historical preservation. eBay stepped in, pulling many of the items, citing violations of their murderabilia policy. But by then, the damage was done. A grotesque market had re-emerged, not for justice, not for answers, but for profit. And at the center of it all, the alleged killer of 7 women, Rex Heuermann. But this wasn't the first time people tried to cash in on crime. It wasn't the first time darkness had a price tag, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. What drove this sudden obsession? Why Gilgo Beach? Why now? To answer that, we need to go back to where it all began. Gilgo Beach. A quiet, windswept strip of Long Island shoreline. To outsiders, it's serene. To locals, it's eerie. But to investigators, it's a graveyard. December 2010, a young sex worker named Shannon Gilbert goes missing after fleeing a client's home in Oak Beach near Gilgo. She calls 911, breathless, terrified, says she's being chased. The call lasts over 20 minutes. Police search for days, weeks. But what they find isn't just Shannon. 4 bodies, found in burlap sacks just off Ocean Parkway. All women, all sex workers, all left within a few hundred feet of each other. It was clear they weren't looking for a missing girl anymore. They were hunting a serial killer. Over the next year, 6 more sets of remains were found in the area, a toddler, an Asian male, and several more women. The press dubbed it the work of the Long Island serial killer, Lisk. But leads dried up. The trail went cold for over a decade. Behind the scenes, though, investigators were narrowing their focus. Burner phones, call records, cell tower pings. In 2022, they form a special task force. By July 2023, after years of silence, they make an arrest. A hulking, quiet architect named Rex Heuermann, living in Massapequa Park, just 30 minutes from Gilgo Beach. Married, 2 kids, no criminal record. He was hiding in plain sight. Detectives say they found burner phones, web searches for torture porn, and calls to sex workers. They matched DNA on a pizza crust Heuermann discarded to a hair found on one of the victims. He was charged with 3 murders: Melissa Barthelemy, Amber Costello, and Megan Waterman. Later, a 4th, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. And most recently, a 5th and 6th and 7th. But Heuermann maintains his innocence. Still, as the case exploded in headlines, a strange shift occurred. People weren't just reading about the alleged killer. They were searching for pieces of him. In the shadows of horror, a new fascination was growing. Not with what he did, but with what he touched. And that's when the turning point came. It began as whispers in the true crime corners of Reddit. A Jeep, a killer, a bidding war, and then, boom. June 26, 2025, an eBay user lists a 1972 military Jeep once owned by Rex Heuermann. The caption is vague, no graphic details, just enough to bait the morbidly curious. By the next morning, the bid hits $4,300. Not because it runs well, not because it's rare, but because of who used to drive it. Other listings followed, a high school yearbook with Rex's face circled, Gilgo Beach killer bumper stickers, even clumps of dirt from outside his Massapequa home were up for grabs. Suddenly, eBay became a twisted marketplace of murderabilia. For some, it was about profit. For others, morbid fascination. A collector's high, the chance to own evil. But not everyone was entertained. The families of the victims were outraged. To them, this wasn't history, it was exploitation. eBay responded. On July 1st, they removed several listings tied to Heuermann. A spokesperson cited their policy banning items closely associated with violent felons. But the damage was done. The story had gone viral. The public had already fed the algorithm. The Jeep, immortalized in headlines. The seller, anonymous and now infamous. Then came the influencers. True crime TikTokers, YouTubers, podcasts dissecting every item. Some romanticized the items, others condemned them. But all of them talked. And in the world of the internet, attention is currency. But what made this different? Why did this one case ignite a buying frenzy? After all, murderabilia isn't new. In the 90s, collectors paid thousands for John Wayne Gacy's paintings. Ted Bundy's car went on tour. Even Charles Manson's hair has changed hands. But the Gilgo Beach case? It was still fresh. The wounds hadn't healed, and the accused hadn't even stood trial. This wasn't nostalgia. This was voyeurism, live, raw, ongoing. And the most disturbing twist? Some buyers said they didn't feel disturbed at all. So, who buys this stuff? Who looks at a serial killer's Jeep, a yearbook, or a newspaper soaked in tragedy and sees a trophy? The answer isn't as simple as psychopaths or sickos. In fact, it's more unsettling than that. Many are just ordinary people, teachers, accountants, collectors, even some who call themselves victim advocates. Why? Because underneath the horror is a very human urge to understand what we fear. Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a leading expert on forensic psychology, calls it symbolic possession. People buy murderabilia to feel power over death. To own something that once belonged to evil is, in a twisted way, a form of mastery. It's no longer out there, it's in your hands, but there's more. Some buyers don't just collect, they worship. Serial killers become icons. They're artifacts, relics. There's even a name for it, murderabilia fetishism. And then there's the sellers. Why list these things? Some claim they're just documenting history. Others call it a business. But for a few, it's about legacy, the chance to be part of a viral moment, to tap into an audience obsessed with serial killers, to ride the wave of infamy, even if it's someone else's. And the most disturbing layer? We, the audience, feed it. Every click, every share, every WTF is this comment on Reddit. We keep the cycle spinning. The line between awareness and exploitation is thin, and we're standing right on it. Even eBay is caught in the moral gray zone. Their policy bans items closely associated with violent felons. But who decides what's closely associated? A car? A book? A t-shirt with no blood? No mention of the crime? When value is defined by connection to evil, the rules become flexible. And it's not just about money, it's about attention, clout, control. The Gilgo Beach craze isn't just about crime, it's about us. What we choose to elevate, what we turn into entertainment, and what happens when empathy gets outbid by curiosity. After the listings went viral, the internet went darkly ablaze. Public backlash flooded social media. Victims' families expressed disgust. True crime fans were divided, and eBay forced to act. By July 1st, 2025, just days after the Jeep and yearbook listings caught fire, eBay began removing anything directly tied to Rex Heuermann. A spokesperson issued a statement. eBay does not allow the sale of items that attempt to profit from violent crimes. But the damage was already done. The Jeep, though unsold, was immortalized in headlines. The story became part of the Gilgo legend. Meanwhile, the investigation into Rex Heuermann continued to unravel. By July 2025, he had been charged with 7 murders. Prosecutors say he used burner phones to contact victims, tracked their movements, lured them in, and dumped their bodies near the beach. Yet through his attorneys, Heuermann has maintained his innocence. He awaits trial, isolated in a jail cell. No access to media, no knowledge, perhaps, of the bizarre market growing around his name. Lawmakers have since reignited debates about banning murderabilia. Some call for sweeping legislation, others warn against censorship, but banning the sale doesn't ban the desire. And that's the part no one wants to talk about. There's no happy ending here, no clear resolution, no gavel slamming down on moral clarity, only questions, and the quiet hum of a computer screen waiting for the next item to go live. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more gripping true crime breakdowns, mysteries, and criminal psychology stories, only on Twisted Case.